Welcome back to the channel, you guys. This is your girl, Wicked Raider 22, actually going through and doing a little bit of purging. If I haven't said it or if you haven't heard it, hopefully everybody's having a good holiday season, getting ready, of course, for the new year since we have made it through the Christmas holidays. Hopefully, your time with family was enjoyable or at least survivable for some of us. So, I've been thinking about this one for quite a while. And for those of you guys just joining the channel, first of all, first and foremost, welcome to the channel. I'm always trying to put out early game, early mid game content, asking questions and throwing around those ideas that most of us are probably thinking, while also kind of diving into the community and from the aspect of a newbie player compared to those who are around us. One of the things you guys will notice also is that I actually run, of course, my pay to play account, which is my main account. My first free to play account, which is Wicked Raider 22, which is what this entire channel is based off. And I also have other free to play accounts. So currently I'm running, so sadly, but running about 7 accounts. And I'm going to trim it down to my top 3. And there has been a lot of thought that's kind of been put into the 3 accounts that I want to keep and making sure that, of course, those are the 3 that I will probably get the most diversity of champions across the board. So, one of the main reasons that I have actually ran so many accounts across the year is because I wanted to be able to, number one, use as many champions as possible. The other thing I also want to see is how much involvement in chance does gameplay actually experience. Like when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, if I'm trying to figure out what's the biggest difference between most of our accounts, number one, we all know the gotcha game sequence and expectation. If you're willing to spend money, Plarium is going to give you a place to spend it. Of course, we expect nothing less at this point. But number two, it's also kind of the thought of if I come into the game in, for example, my first free to play account was started September of this year. So September 2022. I have other accounts that I waited about 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and I started them. And the experience with those accounts has been completely different. Out of my 6 accounts that I run on a regular, just kind of logging in and storing up shards, for example, these are accounts that I will use if we are in a clutch position for CVC, for example. I've always have an account that I'm kind of running, just paying attention to teams, organization, synergy across the board. And I've noticed that on some accounts where it should be a similar experience, some accounts I pull the most basic champions ever. If I pull another sniper, and I love sniper, one of the best nukers, especially early game. Sniper has longevity throughout so many levels, but I will tell a player really quickly, if it gets to the point where you know you need to sacrifice a champion in order to bring your team to the next level, you know, without question, you want to upgrade a particular champion and you need to use sniper to do it, I wouldn't hesitate, because honestly, you're going to pull that champion again through mystery shards, hands down. I felt so bad because so many people will 6-star their starter champion. And the problem that I have, I know that Kale, I've seen accounts where Kale has gone early game, mid game. Some people will even use him in very niche compositions, you know, late game, late stage. And I've also had accounts where he wasn't my best champion. Like for the resources that I needed, it was either vault him at this point so that I won't be tempted to put resources on him, but I literally pulled other champions that not only had his abilities, but so much more. The other thing is I have some accounts that if I have this champion on another account, I will not keep them on the secondary account. So I have really gotten rid of some of the biggest champions that we've had so far, or I've simply vaulted those champions, which is what I got a lot better at doing instead of just eating them as food and feeling bad later. And what I realize is most of us have a favorite faction. We fall into this niche, this group where when a champion pulls up, I was a dark elf kind of girl. If I pulled a dark elf, I just had the running assumption they're going to be my top champion and I would run with it. And what I slowly figured out is sometimes their abilities are actually not what I need for the team that's in place. And so as I'm going through, even as I started looking at different gear, for example, was another place. It turned into a point where I realized and I knew I've got to break myself from this particular group of champions. Here's an example. I pulled my first Skinwalker on a sub account. So one of my other free to play accounts. Snick Track was my first Skinwalker that I was really kind of intrigued by. Started using this champion and wow, it was instant. I have, even on my main pay to play account, I've always struggled with dwarves, and you guys know there are certain dwarf champions I've always wanted to pull. It would be nice to have a Tundra, it would be nice to have all these other champions, but you realize really quickly void shards, sacred shards are not easy or cheap to come by. Some of the tournaments and the events that you're running, only the top one, maybe two people will earn those type of rewards. Otherwise, you are trying to go through Doom Tower. You're trying to go higher in Clan Boss. You're trying to go wherever you would likely be able to select that shard or earn that shard. And so this is so frustrating. I'm sitting here, guys, just trying to work on my Runda, and I'm taking these guys through to get them to 40. I'm going to fuse them for the epic. For this particular fusion, I wasn't so much caught up on being able to get the legendary champ. And I'm probably going to do a whole video on fusions and early game players and all, because that becomes a hot mess all by itself. And if you haven't heard my spiel on it, if you haven't listened to a lot of in-game content creators, they will quickly remind you that fusions are not really built for beginning players. They're really not. The amount of resources that you're throwing in, is when I say just typically insane, it's a lot. And even for this guy who, he's an amazing champion. Like, to be able to get him early game, I'm gonna be honest, if you've been saving all of your resources up until this point, these are some pretty good fusions. If you're in game, these fusions are of no interest to you, just period. If you run into a creator and they're like, oh, I would never go for the epic, or I would never go for, I'll be honest, go back into their video logs. Guys, figure out how long they've been playing the game, because opinions on champions are different based on the level. And so even as I'm going through and trying to trim down this account in particular, I'm really trying to go ahead and elevate the level of my rares so that I'm able to get the epic champion that I'm going after. And then I'm going to go back, of course, and clean up some of these areas within campaign that I've been trying to finish up for quite a while. And which is kind of the whole point of this video, get back on topic, of being able to go in and either trim down my number of accounts and also look at the value of my champions. With my pay to play, there's a desire with me for both Wicked Raider 22 and for my pay to play to literally have one copy of every champion that I can get. And I know for me, that's going to be a lot. I've got to be really careful about how I do that. But for those two accounts, it's the ultimate goal to see the comparison between being a small payer, a small little minnow in the pond of paying. Anything under $30 to $50, you are not doing very much per month. So compared to a 100% free to play account. And I will say the experience for some of my free to play accounts has been a lot more enjoyable at times than my pay to play. There have been a lot of moments where I struggle with my pay to play to get myself to the same level I am with some of my free to play accounts. I have, for example, Deacon Armstrong. I pull him on my free to play account. Would love to have him on pay to play. I could think of so many ways to use him, but I don't have him. There have been a couple of dwarves I pulled that have turned out to be amazing. A couple of void shards that I used during the previous CBC, and would love to have those champions. Guess what? Don't have them on my pay to play account. So I'm building teams sometimes in my mind and not realizing I'm building that team, but not getting the same end results. So as I'm just sitting here, just kind of going through and really thinking about what champions I want to keep, what I think I may do is go in, and there are one or two accounts I could easily let go of. I'm going to do that this week, kind of clear the way. If you are logging in on New Year's, somewhere between January 1st and the 3rd, I'm going to start that new 2023 free to play. I'm going to try to do it probably early morning on New Year's, because that's also my son's birthday. So it gets kind of tricky on that day. But I want to get that in, get it started, kind of take you through and do a comparison of how long it took me to get to this point with my previous free to play compared to the next one. So it's a lot of excitement because I'm pretty sure Player was going to lay some things out for us in January. It's a lot of excitement just because of the number of tournaments and events and fusions we've had between November and December. It has been insane. But I would love to know, how do you guys plan on finishing out the year? We've got 5 days left. What do you plan on doing with your accounts? Are you pushing through with where you are progressing currently? Are you going to change the way you approach possible fusions that are coming up in the new year? Do you want to focus more on Doom Tower or Twin Towers? Are you going to do, the Necropolis area dungeon? Where do you want to put your focus? I would love to hear from you guys, kind of get us ready for the upcoming year. If you have a video suggestion, if there is a champion that you would like to get a little bit more in depth with, and if I pull that champion, we could definitely do that as well. I've got a couple of series lined up that I want to come out with a regular basis, but at least 3 videos each week that are just kind of pulling you through and pouring into you as much as possible. And of course, waiting for you guys to do the same for me. Well, we've made this one long enough. If you haven't joined the clan and you're looking for a clan, 22WK, we have slots available. So 22WK, we are always looking for those who are excited about CBC. So come and join us. Other than that, happy gaming, and I'll talk to you guys soon.